Two questions. First, has any U.S. aid not gotten to where it's supposed to go? And secondly, could we get an update on Russia's military capability?
Well, that second one's a big one, Mike. So on the first one, just to remind, what we're doing is helping coordinate the transshipment of not only U.S. security assistance, but security assistance provided by many other nations, more than 30, getting it into Ukrainian hands, getting it into Ukraine using ground methods. And that's as far as I'm going to go in terms of the details on that. And we're confident that that material continues to get into Ukraine. Once it gets into Ukrainian hands, it's up to the Ukrainian armed forces to decide where it goes, what unit gets it, when, where it's stored, if it's stored at all temporarily. That is up to the Ukrainians to decide, not the United States. We're not putting strings on this stuff and telling them that they have to move this by a certain date or get it to a certain unit. That we would not step on their toes in that regard. Our job, get it in the region, get it into Ukraine, and then the Ukrainians use it in the field. As for Russian military capability, that's a very big question, so I'll do the best I can. I mean, we still assess that in general they have the vast majority of their assembled combat power available to them. From what they assembled over the course of the fall and in the early winter months or weeks, they still have a lot of that amassed combat power available to them. They have suffered losses. They have suffered casualties. They have lost platforms and systems, whether it's aircraft or tanks or armored personnel carriers. You've seen the video yourself. You've seen these destroyed Russian platforms on the side of the road, but they still have quite a bit of capability left to them. Now they are concentrating that capability in a smaller geographic area, in the Donbass specifically, but also in the south. And so they are trying, as I answered earlier, they are trying to overcome some of their logistics and sustainment, their interior lines of communication problems, if you will. They won't have as far to go in the Donbass to reinforce, resupply, refuel their forces in the Donbass, because they have a long border with that part of Ukraine. And they are certainly adding combat capability in that part of Ukraine. It is a smaller, again, piece of ground than what they have been trying to operate in over the last 3 to 4 weeks, along 3 major lines of access across the entire eastern half of the country. Now they've concentrated it, and they still have a lot of combat power to use there. It's also, as I said earlier, terrain they're comfortable with. They've been fighting over this over the Donbass area now for 8 years. So their commanders, their troops, there's a familiarity with the cities and the towns and the terrain that they didn't necessarily have when they were trying to come at Kyiv from the north and Chernihiv from the north, and then up, from Crimea into the south. So we would expect that they're going to try again through their own familiarity with the terrain and the mistakes they made. They're going to try to overcome that. Okay.
Has there been any change, any big fluctuation within the last week or so, or last short period of time? I know that a senior defense official has put the estimation around 80% to 85% in the past couple of weeks. Is that around the same now?
You mean of the amount of combat power they still have available? Yeah. Look, I don't want to get into percentages and specific data here on their combat power from the podium. I would just say that we still believe they have the vast majority of their combat power available to them, even with the losses. They had taken time, months, to assemble combined arms capability outside of Ukraine: aviation, armor, artillery, infantry, special operations, airborne. They assembled a lot, and they still have a majority of that available to them, even with the losses that they've sustained in the last few weeks. Yeah.